welcome to another amazing day at fmtraining.tv, where we're here to discuss the fantastic and wonderful FileMaker and Claris platforms. I'm here with the wonderful Nick Hunter, who is one of the premier developers for, frankly, almost anything FileMaker, but he's particularly known for UI and UX. He's been here with us the last several weeks to cover all sorts of things for our series. So that's been very gracious of him, frankly. So thank you very much, Nick. With Tuesday, Wednesday, we are doing and starting a new Nick. I like to call them Nick mini series, where it's like 3 days at max. We're doing best practices building a FileMaker solutions with Nick Hunter, and that'll be really quite fun. We're going to be doing that today. Thursday will be updates to the Monkey Bread plugin. Friday will be an open platform. Did I say open platform? Fun. Open Claris platform Q&A. And then Monday and Tuesday will be Wolfpack add-on updates. And then you don't see the rest of that week, but the rest of that week is Thanksgiving, so we'll be doing nothing during then. With that being said, if you'd like to support us, we'd greatly appreciate it. You have the FM Training Annual Subscription Bundle. It is a great option for basically beginner, intermediate, and advanced developers. It is 100 plus hours of really high energy video content. If you have no brain is dying. If you basically have no experience with FileMaker, but you want to be working on projects for yourself, you can use this and basically start from. We use it to train our own engineers. So this series basically allows you to get a really good grasp of FileMaker and move forward with your own projects and goals. So if you've bought it already, we greatly appreciate it. If not, we highly recommend it. Nick, what are we doing today?
So today we do, hello everybody, by the way. Today we do the first day of, so we have 3 days, right? So the third day will be in the week after Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, yes. So yeah, next week we'll have Christian for the first 2 days, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all Thanksgiving. Not I think Thursday, so next Thursday is Thanksgiving, yes.
Yes. But so, my third day of this webinar will be when will it be?
Oh, it'll be after Thanksgiving week. So it'll be, I think, Tuesday. So the week after.
Okay.
Next week.
Okay. So it's good to know. So so today we do the first day of these 3 days, but with a large break, right? And how we build. So what you need to think about when you build a new file from scratch, so you have nothing and you build a file from scratch. Okay, so what you need to talk about, what you need to think about, what you need to prepare, how you name the thing, how you organize your thing. So it's more about organized architecture and getting you the pieces of the puzzle that you need in order to get everything you need, and you need to follow those rules, this technique of architecture all along your process, because you will need pieces, to support your processes and stuff like that. So, for example, in FileMaker, not every single script are attached to a button, right, or a trigger. You have scripts that are triggered by other scripts or stuff like that, right? So you need, and then you have different type of scripts. You have scripts triggered, scheduled, from a server. So you have different type. The same for layouts. So you have different type of layout. You have the data entry layouts. Then you have layout for your custodial work, like table views, to see if the data flow is correct and see if you get the result correct and stuff like that. So you need the layout for that. You have layouts that are used but not displayed, but they need to be on certain context, right? And you have layout that are card style windows, right? So you have the different type of layouts. So you need to organize this. Otherwise, if you have a large list of layout like this, you can retrieve yourself. And the same for the tables, the same for the occurrences. You need to organize yourself. The same for the value list, the same for pretty much everything. So you need to organize. How you name your thing is crucial. It's top number one on your list. How to name things. Because in FileMaker, unfortunately, we have no many ways to retrieve information than by the name, right? So when you have 10 fields and when you have 10 scripts, everything okay. When you have hundreds of scripts, you start having problems. You start having duplications. So you duplicate scripts because you forget that, you forget that you have one. Because one day you're going to name something in one way, and the next day you're going to name exactly the same thing in another way because you have a different mood. So that's why you need to use the same technique of naming, because then you don't have the mood effects, right? And especially if you have multiple people working on the same file, multiple developers, you need to apply those rules, because I name something, he names something, I rename the script because I don't like how it's named, he renamed because, so you cannot do that. So that's why you need to follow rules, organization rules, right? And by the end of the day, all the time you're going to invest in doing this, you're going to retrieve it, because it will help you greatly during the process of building the solution. So let's start with, let's share my screen here. And so what we talk about is when you open this and you go there and you say new. So when you have this and you say new blank and you create a file, so what you need to do? So let's start with like a FM starting point, for example. Let's start with a CRM. Okay, so a CRM. So we have account, contacts, stuff like that. So when you start a file, right, the first thing you get is this. Okay. So they did that during a time for many years they were creating one field, a text field, one field to show that you have to put something here. Then they start to say put nothing, right? That was FileMaker 12, something like this. So okay, we put nothing, blank, and then now they come with this. Okay, so pretty much what I'm doing myself, is deleting this because I don't need that example. So I have no field here, right? And I have the first table name as the file, right? So the table is creating a table, because FileMaker without the table cannot work. So you have a table here named CRM, and so I can just rename it, right? And rename it by the first table that I want. I want an account table. Okay. So the way you name the table is very, very important. Pretty much what I'm trying to do is to put in capital character the three first letter of the table. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes you can have a duplication, contact item, right? So I'm going to show you how we do that. But you try to stay on the 3 characters. You can go to the 4 character, and I will explain why, and there's reason for that. So I can change that, table, right? So I create my table accounts, right? And then I'm going to create, another table, right? So no, I'm going to fill up this account table. So I have the account table, and what do you need to do in the account table? The first, you need to put a primary key. So here, what my 35 plus experience in FileMaker told me. Put a primary key in every single table you have. Why? Is because normally everything that I'm going to explain to you is it's to prepare you to use transfer of fund sets, smart filtering, stuff like that. And anyway, at one point, you will need an ID to identify a record in every single table you have. So by default, I'm putting a primary key. So how I'm naming my primary key? First, primary key, I'm putting two underscores, two, 1 and 2. And then I say ID in, capital, right? Space and accounts singular. So why singular? Okay, so it's important because in the naming convention that we have, the S, the plural, has a meaning. It gives you an indication. Here, it's the ID for one account, right? So no S. The table, yes, has a S because it's where I'm putting my accounts. Okay, multiple records. Right? So I have an ID here, and here I'm putting here in the get UUID. Okay, so, and I keep do not replace existing. Some people says does not empty unique, and so unique value with get UUID doesn't make any sense because there's no way you can get 2 times the same ID. Not empty, it's okay because that's not a field that you're going to show on the layout anyway. So this is enough to protect you. Okay, you can say prohibition of modification, whatever, but I'm not doing it. I'm not charging my stuff to be too complicated. So why UUID and why not UUID number? Why? Okay, I'll tell you why. Because that's the reason why. First, that's a reason of the get UUID number, right? So the get UUID gives you this. This is easier to recognize. This is easier to read, and this is easier to remember, to remember. So you can remember because you have a letter, most of the time you will have a letter on the first, here I have a B, it's not an 8, it's a B. So I have a B here, right? And so I can say, oh, that's 85B. So you can remember and stuff like that. When you have number, it's not that easy to read, in my opinion. This is my preference, but anyway, that's a reason why UUID number. UUID number, you're going to use that, right? So you use this, and you put your field as a number. Why? It's because when you have millions of records, the index will be much smaller than the index with the UUID, because you don't have letters, and you don't have the dash, and you don't have all this. So it's a number. So you have a smaller index, but most of the case, it's an account table. So what do we have? 5,000, 10,000, 200. I won't have millions of accounts. If I have millions of accounts, I put number. So if you have a million of records, you can start using number. Otherwise, my preference, I don't see the interest. Okay. So let's put the ID account, and then, right, you start naming your thing. Okay. So people says we're going to start to name first, name last. You can reverse the name and stuff like that. I don't like to do this for many reasons. Okay. And the first, I'm going to explain why. Okay. So if you say name first, right, and you have name last, first of all, this works only in English. The other language, that technique doesn't apply. So if people from the world are listening to us, this technique applies only to English. But let's say we do that, right? And I put on my layout, so let me get rid of this. So on my layout, I have this, name first, name last. But on the layout, we don't want to see like this. We want first name, right? we want first name, and we want last name, right? That's what we want to see, right? So that means now I broke the link between the field label and the field name is broken. That means if I change this, if I change this, this won't change, right? So let's see now when what happened, okay, when I do the thing right. First name, right? And, oh, yes, okay. First name and last name, okay? So I have two. So now I have these two, and I have the name here, right? So what happened if I change the last name, If I change this, I say, okay, primary, first name. I don't know, If I change this, right? So here, it changed the label, so I don't break it. So you have here, the technique I'm using is this for the naming thing. The fields that are going to be displayed on layouts, I'm putting human name. I'm putting the right name, the name I want to see on the layouts. That's for the fields that I'm displaying on the layout. The field that you need, because you have some fields that you need for different things, right? So sometimes you need, a global field, like current date, for example, right? So you put a J in front of a G in front of the name with the underscore to tell you that this is a global, okay? So you put that on the name, you put a G. Sometime you will say you need a tag. So you say tag underscore and you say active, for example, right? So that will be a Boolean. Everything you call tag will be Boolean, 1-0. It's a tag to identify the record with a relationship. So you need to create your field like this. Right? So as we're going to advance, I'm going to explain you more things. But for now, you understand the concept here, right? So the first name, the last name, or our field that I'm going to show on the layout, right? Like address, zip code, postal code, right? Address is a text. Postal code is a text also, because if you're in England, for example, you have letter, or Canada, and then you have the city, and then you have the country, or the states, and the country. Okay, so all of those are going to be, under the layout, right? So of course you have variation of this, and as we advance, I'm going to explain that to you. So let's say now we're going to create another table, right? So what I'm doing most of the time, I'm not create a table from scratch. I just copy the table and paste it. That pretty much do a duplication, because we don't have duplicate, and we cannot duplicate, try to find duplicate, but we don't. So you copy and paste. Copy paste will duplicate the thing. So, and now I'm going to create my contacts, right? So CON and contacts, right? So that's my contact stuff, and so this is my contacts table, and I changed the name. So now I have a contact table. But here I have some fields, and most of the time I can recycle fields. So the primary key is the same, just change the name. First name, last name, they're the same, and I can keep the same, stuff like this, right? So here we can maybe change this to, account name, because it wasn't first name, last name, but we can have an account name, company name, you can do that, right? So you can So you have pretty much your table created, right? So I'm going to continue, and I'm going to copy paste, and I'm going to say I want the project, So projects, if you say this you have a problem. Projects, not the same. Production. So I'm doing this for projects. PRJ, that is project. PRD is product, right? So you see you have some variants here, but you can invent your thing. It's up to you. It's something when you have habits, I know that PRJ on every single of my development is project. So it's what is important to know here is to use consistency. You need to use consistency in everything you do. Otherwise, if you have an exception on everything you do, it's impossible to retrieve your thing. Right? So this is my project table. So I have a project table. So of course, you understand. I double click here, and then this is the project ID, right? And this is the project name. So really, normally, I'm not saying project name. I'm saying projects. This is the project name. I don't need project name, because less words you're going to apply on your naming, better is. Projects like in account also. You could have this is the account and this is the company. You don't need to name. What else could be? So I'm asking the question. What else could be? Company. If it's the company manager, yeah. In that case, right, you can say if you have an account manager and a company manager, right? So in that case, you say, okay, this is the company manager, right? But you don't need to put the name because it's the name. Company manager, what could it be, right? So you have the company manager and the account manager, right? Right. So you have two, but you need the word to identify both, because this is the name of the account and the name of the company. This is the name of the company manager and okay, you understand? So it's no need of charging and making naming complex. Same for project here, right? So I have the project. I have the project manager, right? See? So I have, for example, I just need to know the amount of the project, right? Okay. So, but if you have the amounts, you have the bid amount, for example, sometimes you have a bid amount. So you have the bid amounts and then you have the amounts. So you see, you use the minimum words and you understand what's going on here, right? You have an active, you have status, can I have a status, right? And then you can say, for example, here, you can say it's if status, for example, I give you an example of simplicity because this is where we do here, what we do here. We don't need to say if status equal active, right? You said this, otherwise, otherwise zero. You don't need that. You just need to know to say status equal active. And then if status equal active, it will say, okay, that's true. That will be a Boolean. So we have a course, maybe Marge, you can copy paste the Boolean. So you can do that, right? So you can do things. So now we have three tables. So let's continue with the table creation. So you see, we create the table. So let's validate this in case I'm crashing. So let's say now I want the invoice, So I have the invoice, invoices, right? So let me copy paste this. Copy paste. I have it. So I can just env invoice, and that's invoices. Okay. is the I capital. So we have invoice. Of course, you understand is the invoice, and then you have the creation date, right? So you can put here an option here, the creation date. Can remove this, and we have, for example, the owner, okay. So that the guy, which creation date, we have the status, right? And we have a summary, for example, here. We can have a due date, okay? So you can recycle. So what I want to show you is how you copy paste the table and then you recycle it, right? So you don't need to, you see the time we save because we already have fields, and so just rename and boom, So we have the creation date, the due date, and the tag active automatically follows. Because if you have what's the name? A consistency in the name, when you copy paste calculation like this, it will flow. You copy paste and then it keeps it, it's still working. If you copy paste and you don't, it's for example, let's say I'm deleting this. I have status here, right? So I'm going there, and this I'm copying from project and I'm pasting in invoice. The calculation works. It's not commented because the name is the same. All my status fields, name status, I'm keeping a consistency, right? In order to help myself, to support my effort of creation operation. So here we have this thing. So let's start field name. So we have pretty much our invoice, right? And then here I want to create the invoice item. Okay. So I'm saying, remember invoice items, right? So I'm keeping env, and I'm adding an I, and here I'm saying items. Okay. So it's invoice item. Okay. So now I have env and envi for item. Okay. So you can go to 4 characters if you want, but it's better but you need to keep, if you go 4, it's because there's a reason, and that's the reason. Because env and eni is not the same. So, and I will explain why in the future. So now I have ID invoice item. I don't need the creation date. I just need another field now that is the foreign key, because you understand that those records will be linked to the primary invoice table with an ID. So I need here an IDF invoice. So ID with one unique underscore. So ID capital F small cap, and here invoice. So the name of the table of the So I create this, right? And why double underscore here? Because most of the time you're going to need and you're going to call the primary key always, and you want the primary key to be always on top of the list. Most of the time your field will be sorted by name, right? So whatever you put here, you can put this, whatever you're going to put, even AA, they're in your list by name. First will be the double underscore, then the underscore, right? So then you know that your keys will be always on top of the list, whatever you create, whatever the field you create. So that's why it's important. So now we have the quantity. Okay, so quantity, you can use an abbreviation, you can use it, no problem. You can use this. When you use an abbreviation, you need to be careful. Don't invent your own. Don't invent your own. You need to use abbreviation that is widely known in the country of you are. So, but here we are going to name thing the normal thing, right? And so item, so that the item, quantity, and then we can have the amounts or the amounts, right? And then we can have the total, okay? Right? So let's delete this. We don't need the summary and we don't need the status. So we have the amount, the item, the quantity, the amount, the total, and the total will be, whatever quantity, whatever amounts by the quantity. Okay, so that's easy. So you have this quantity, item, and amount. Okay, so they're numbers. Okay, so far so good. But here, maybe you will need a summary field, right, to have the total of the amounts of the total of total. So, okay, what you do, you use this terminology, total of, and you use it like this. You write total of, right? Why? It's because total of total. So because the summary fields will say it's a total of, average of, count of. So you put there in the name, you put what it is here, total of, and you put like this to symbolize that has a function. It's for you tell yourself this is a summary field. This is when you have total of, average of, count of, list of, this is a summary field. You have, because you help yourself. You come with a terminology that give you an information crucial here, right? So you have this total of. So now you see we have pretty much 5 tables, right? And we create that very easily, and we name them, and we copy paste the table to help yourself. Okay. So do we have questions?
We do, actually. So, are spaces something that will are spaces something that will interfere with external programs like SQL?
Yeah, in that case, I perfectly understand. But in that case, you use another technique. Well, we call that the mirror fields. I call it mirror field. So let's say, because I doubt that you need all your fields for QuickBooks or whatever. I doubt it. You need some fields, right? Some fields, not all. So let's say in my invoice, I don't know, I need a due date, for example, for another program, right? So okay, so I duplicate this, right? And I can do this if you want, or this if you want, whatever you want, right? Right? And you can even say here, QB, like this, if you want to say this is for QuickBooks. But so all the QuickBook fields will be like this. Better is a way better technique than anything, because you don't disrupt yourself, right? You don't disrupt yourself, right? So you have that the QuickBook due dates, and here you say, okay, on the auto entry calculation, I want the due date. So it won't take anything. So let's say I want for QuickBook, I want the due date and the creation date. I want both. So I duplicate this and I rename this and I say creation date, QB, right? And I go there and I say, okay, that the creation date. Okay. So you identify your QBs, and it doesn't disrupt the name of the original field that you're going to display on the layout and stuff like that, right? So that gives you many advantages, or that you can make you can change. For example, you say, okay, I want to change the format on this because I don't want, for example, I had an example, right? The software I was using doesn't like the slashes. Slashes on the date. So I was doing something like this: substitute the dates and look for this, right? And change with this, right? For example, so the advantage of using what I call mirror fields is that you can intervene without making things complicated, right? So this is the way to use those this way, but you don't name your main fields, right? For QuickBooks, right? Or for another, because that doubts, that you have need for all your fields. I have another way is to create a table for that. So you create a table and you bring all the information you need for your software. So all the fields on that table are named for that software, and you use a kind of smart kind of a relationship schema for that table to grab all, because sometimes you have QuickBooks, you have 2 fields there and 2 fields there, and another table, another table, another table, another table, another table. By the end of the day, you don't remember where they are, and you're looking for that. So you create a QuickBook table, and all your fields, you have a relationship that grabs the information like this, right? With auto entry calculation and your trigger. So one day, if I have time at the end of this, I will show you how that works. And you will see, so people will say, Nick, that's great, but it's extra work. Okay, so what do you want? Quick and dirty work, right? Or doing the right thing? Because you can always take shortcuts, but at the end you will have a piece of garbage as a solution, right? And at the end of the day, you will lose time to try to figure out where are my thing and stuff, and you will duplicate, triplicate all your thing because you can't find them, and you think you don't have it, and so this discipline is mandatory to get great success in your file. I'm here to teach you the great success. I'm not teaching you to do the quick and dirty and cheap and no. This is not cheap. This is very important. It's more important this than anything else, and you can't even imagine how much. I turned down a project recently, okay, recently last year, because I couldn't work on the file. I'm sorry, I said I'm not working on that file because I told the guy, I said, okay, it's such a mess in your file that you're not going to pay me the amount of money. I'm going to ask you just to retrieve your stuff. Oh yeah, but I know by heart. Yeah, okay, so you're the only one on earth capable of working on your file. So great, good job, because you didn't follow the rules. You didn't follow like a discipline, right? Like a standard, right? By the way, this is documented, right? So Marge, we have the coding standard, and maybe I can give you the PDF at the end of this. So this is I did a huge amount of work there to codify and to write down how to name things, right? So do we have another question, Marge?
We do. Next question we have is from Topcat. Is there a disadvantage to keeping the UUID number as a text field?
I don't understand the question.
Let me repeat it.
Yeah.
Is there a disadvantage to keeping the UUID number as a text field?
Yes, it won't make a big deal of a difference, but if I use a UUID number, I'm putting the field as a number as well, to have the thing. It's that's it's only for the indexing. It's an indexing matter. Is that all? That doesn't have any another purpose. And as I said, don't overthink this if you don't have at least 1 million records. Because today, at the time of the floppy drive, maybe I will have said, oh, use UU number. Okay. But now, 1 megabyte more or less is not going to make a big difference, you understand? So, but when you have million, you start thinking about hundreds of megabytes just because you change this, right? So, but you need another discipline when you have millions of records. You need to undo all the index, absolutely all of them, and keep them only on the field you want to look for, to search, or use as a key. But otherwise, when you have millions of records, you need to go there and say known and never created. Otherwise, your database will be 200 gigabytes in like this. Okay? So, and you don't want that. So, other question, Marge?
Yes. Sometimes you have ID constant. What's it mean?
Oh, good question. Sometime, right? Especially when I use tags. Right? So where's my tag? When I use a tag, 1, 0. On the other side, I use that on the relationship. And on the other side, I need, a 1 to say, oh, I want all the record with the 1 as a tag, or I don't want all the record with the 1 on the tag. You can change that. So I'm for example, here I'm going to need it, right? On contacts, I'm going to need it. So I call that link. I changed my terminology a little bit. I upgraded myself, updated myself. So I call that link constants, right? So what this is, it's a number, right? So I call link because it's always on top. It's part of a relationship. Everything that is part of a relationship, everything that you will use in a relationship need to have an underscore and have a purpose. It could be a link, an ID, data link. Okay. So I call that a link number, right? But I have a scripts at the startup scripts, right? That will put 1 there on, because I'm on local, it's a local file, but normally on the server, you cannot store a global, right? You can store the global only on local files. So you need a script at the beginning that set up all your globals, because you can have hundreds of globals, But that's a good question. It's for relation. I'm going to show that in a moment. Other question?
Yes. You get as number parentheses get UUID in a number field. Can it work?
No.
Okay.
No.
Next question.
No.
When do you use a separate table for the invoice status, and when do you keep it in table INV invoices?
For the status?
Yes. When do you use a separate table for the invoice status, and when do you keep it in the invoice table?
Oh, it depends on the complexity of the status. If you have a status that you want to use as in a relationship, or to retrieve information, or I'm using a status table, right? But that's another question. But that's another topic. I see the time running. I want to finish this, otherwise I will be late.
Yeah.
But I'm going to come back on this. So, other question?
Yes, we've actually got like 3 more. Can repeat
Okay,
change the field name? Change the field name and the labels get changed too?
Yes, that if if you don't change the name of the text, for example, I'm going to invoice layouts. So I have those, right? If I don't change, if the due date, for example, I call that due dates primary, right? Primary. If I change the name and I validate this, it's due date primary, right? But if I change that's what I was saying. If I change I said due, I change the name of the label, and I change the name here, change it. It won't change the name of this because it lost its babies, right? So that's why I do this. I prefer to keep the label because you need to imagine this, you know? You need to imagine this. I have 9 layouts with due dates, right? Okay, let me do it again. I'm changing the name. I said due. I break. And then I'm creating all of those layouts, right? And I say, oh, yeah, but that's the due date primary, for example. Okay? I change the name and boom. So now I have to change the name here. I need to go to the other one, change the name here, go to the other one, change the name here. So the amount of work, and you need to remember everywhere you have these fields to rename it. Oh, good job, right? So no, you want this, right? You want this. And if you didn't do that at the beginning and you created your layouts like this, okay, and I changed the name here, right? So now, look, it changed the name on all my layouts. So that's why I'm saying 35 plus years of experience. I tell you, the fields that I'm putting on the layouts, I don't change the name. I put the human name. If I want a unhuman name, a QuickBook name, I have a QuickBook field for that, right? Though I don't want to break my FileMaker beauty just because of the garbage of QuickBooks, right? So it's that's my philosophy, and trust me, it's a good one, okay? Because you have another thing. It's that the field names has functions sometimes. I demonstrate that many times. So, I mean, you need to forget about it. So you need to follow that rule. Keep the name, right? Keep the name of your fields as you want them to be displayed on layouts, right? And don't try to change that. Okay. Another question, Marge?
Yes. Which one's the next one? Nick uses the fields auto added when a new table is created.
When I say auto?
Nick uses the fields auto added when a new table is created.
Auto added. Auto entry. It's auto entry?
Automatically added fields of a table.
No, because I duplicate the table. I have a table, I copy and paste, and then I have all the fields of the previous one, and I remap them, I revamp, I recycle them. That's my technique, right? But I don't use. Here I forgot to get. So I don't use the here too. I don't use the field that FileMaker created because they are too complicated, and I don't like it. and so I don't, but you can use it if you want. So, okay, so other question?
This may be a little out of order, but what about the document table?
Yeah, okay, document table. So you paste it and you said DOC documents. So pretty much you have the same thing. You have ID documents, right? And here you have, I call that the ID from. So I'm going to explain that in the future if I have time, but I will spill a little bit, like 10 minutes today. And then you have, and then you have here, you have the container. So you have the container file. I call that this. Why? Because sometimes, so you have the container file, which is the container. Okay. Oh, let's delete this. So you have the container file, container file, right? So why I'm doing this? Because I can have this. I can have two containers. I can have the file itself, right? And then I can have the thumbnail, the small version of it. So the thumbnails, you get it like this, get thumbnails, okay? And you point to the field with the container file and you say, I want a 200 by a 200. So that will give you a nice small version of the file if the file is a photo, right? Otherwise it won't work. But you understand what I mean? So so that the beauty, you can have multiple things, right? And then you have the file name. So for the file name, okay. So you can use the get container attributes. You go to your container file, and then you said you want the file name, right? And then you have the file size, which is a number. And then you can say, right, it's get container attributes, and then you go there, go to the file, and you say, okay, this is the size, right? Right? So you have those things like this, right? So you have your stuff, right? And of course, you can go to the help and use the So, but that document, right? So you can have. I'm using pipe something, pipe and what it is. I'm using the pipe separation to symbolize that you have two information. It's not one block. It's not one. It's not like first name. Like here is a container, not the file. Container, that the thumbnail, right? So sometime, when I have a complex table, I can go and help myself like this, right? Saying that is a container file name and that the container file size. So those containers, right? Because sometimes you have complex things. So you help yourself with the name, because you will see how it works in the future when all of this will be constructed, right? So that being said, now I have enough to fry to continue. Okay, so you understand all the thing we do, how we name, the total off, because this will give you an indication, because it's for a summary. So you have your own habit. I'm giving you my habit, the way I'm doing things, right? And so you can adopt it or not. To me, works very well. So that's why I'm sharing with you, right? So now we have this, the relationship map. So we start with table, then we go to the fields, right? And then now we have the relationship, right? So the relationship, what I'm doing with this, right? So it automatically is going to create an occurrence with the name of the table. The name of the table. Exactly the same. It creates that automatically. I keep them, right? I keep them tight. I keep them as is. I don't use them, but I keep them. I will use them, but not for my production. I keep them. So I show you how I'm doing to reorganize this. I'm doing this, this, and this. I'm selecting this. Then I'm saying go to the left and then distribute vertically. So now they are all there, right? Ready to be used, right? And here I'm writing here. So here typically I'm using courrier new, right? And 24. Why? I'll show you. Those are tables. And I put do not delete. Boom. Those are tables, right? Right. So courrier new I like because it's a good. So, and I put that transparency. This here, so you can do that. See here, you have no background, so those are there. So you have your tables, and this is transparent. So you can use it small like this to not disrupting you. So you have the table. Do not delete. So why I'm using big names like this? Okay. So earlier I was working on, our friend Scott Kane solution, right? And I'm going to open the file. So when I'm doing Zoom sharing, everything is so slow. I don't know why. And I'm going to show you the map. Okay. So why those titles so big? Okay. So when you have a map, so you see table do not delete. So I'm not lying to you. This file is I don't know, like 4 years old, right? So why the name big like this? And it's not big enough, but it's okay. It's because when you have a relationship like this, right? And so when you have something like this, what you want to do is this, right? But you see here, you can barely see. Okay, that's why it's too small. But we can do this. So now we can read what it is, even when you zoom out. When you zoom out, you can still use. You can still see the title of those anchors, right? Otherwise, it's impossible to read what's here. Right? So that's why we use this. This technique of naming those things big like this. 24, depending on the screen, you can go to 36, 60. So it's okay, depending on the screen, right? When you have a good screen, like an Apple screen or stuff like that, it's good. So now we have this. I don't touch it. So why I'm going to use that? Why? Well, what's the reason I'm going to use this? Because all those layouts, right? I'm going to keep them as is. You need in your work, you need layouts pointing to the table with this relationship that will this occurrence will never ever be linked to another occurrence. You never link this. You keep it as is, and you will have a new, and you will have a layout that points to this without anything, without triggers. You never put any trigger here. You have no relationship. I call that a sterile layout. Sterile layout. Why? Is because when you go to that layout, you know that you have nothing related to that. So you will be you have less risks to do mistakes and problems. You need those layouts for custodial work, like a table view, and you go to see, oh, do I have the record I need, or do I have did it update? Did my script update the IDs? Did the relookup work? Did my date change? Did my data is okay, right? You go to that layout, right? And you use that layout for the custodial, for the control, the checking and stuff like that, debugging. So for every single table you will have in your solution, you need to have those layouts, right? And to have those layouts, you need to have those tables, right? But you don't rename, you don't do, because remember how FileMaker works. If I change the name of invoices, right? If I change the name of invoices, automatically it changed the name of the occurrence, but automatically it will change also the name of I didn't. Normally you should have done that. Why? Or maybe because I duplicated. Okay, no. Normally you should have changed the name. I don't know. Okay, never mind. But anyway, you don't want to break the link, because if you rename this occurrence, right? And you rename the table that goes with the occurrence, right? You rename it, that will break. It won't rename this. So now you break. So those tables, virgin, like sterile, right? They are great for importing. Excellent for importing. Because most of the time you don't want stuff to happen when you import, right? So you break everything, you break all the linkage between that table, and then you can import in that table without risking anything, right? So if you don't have any question, I think we can go. I will continue tomorrow, because what next? I need more time, so I don't want to break.
Oh, we have 2 more questions. You said, are you good to answer questions? You want to do the questions tomorrow?
No question. No.
Okay. What about your magic global creation ID field? Question mark.
Okay, the magic key. So it's simple. For example, I want to create. I will use it for that. I want to create from invoice an item, for example, right? Using the magic key. So it's a global. Okay, so you can. Here, I'm going to use it as a link. So we can say link, okay, and you say UUID, okay, and it's a link, but it's also a global. So sometimes a link could be a global, sometimes it's not. I don't need that level of information, right? If I have a doubt, I'm going to the managed database and I look, because all my link and all my IDs are always on top, so they are easy to see, easy to retrieve. So I say, oh, okay, that's global. Okay, so I don't need to have an extra, right, information. So this is a link, or sometime you can use like this, say global UUID. It doesn't matter. Either way it works. I have the habit to say GUUID, GUUID, so you can use that. So you have GUUID on one table, and on the receiving table, you have UUID creation. But that's not the global. It's not, so it's just UUID creation. So it's, so this will be the key, and this will be the receiving creation. that will be used for creation, right?
I can't get container attributes for creation. Any suggestions?
For creation, you can get here. So you can get this on creation. Yeah, I know why. Because by definition, if you do this, it will never get updated, right? So because by definition, so you need to remove this. You need to remove this, because when you create a new record, right? I don't know if I have a. Yeah, let's. What is this? No. Yeah, can use this. So let's say we go to documents, okay, and we have a new record. So you create a record. So the auto entry calculation has been done, right? So you don't have it anymore. So when you drag, you have this. So what the file that because that file size or something like this. Yeah. So so you need, because if you don't, when you because you create a record first and then you insert this, right? So you create a record and then you insert. You cannot create at the same moment of the insertion. So you need to make sure you remove that auto entry, do not replace. Otherwise, when you drag this, boom. See. Other questions?
But if you forget something to put in those tables, question mark.
When I forget to, I don't understand the question. Can we? Yeah.
But if you forget something to put in those tables, question mark. I'm not totally sure what you mean, Wally.
Yeah, no. But if you forget, you go and you add it. You can add it. You can add whatever you want, right? Like for example, here I want I want the notes fields. You create it, right? And you add your note field. I don't understand the question, by the way.
Yeah, no, I don't either. But other than that, I think we're good. So people really like
okay,
it.
so yeah. So tomorrow we are going to continue on the relationship. Okay, so you understand that the naming is important. You understand that the don't chart don't put complex name and stuff like that, right? With everything with underscores and stuff like that, because it's unreadable. It's unreadable, especially on calculations. It's not great. It breaks the label, right? It's not necessary, and it's every time you need to type something, underscore types underscore type something, underscore type something, underscore. Okay, by the end of the day, the underscore key will be broken on your keyboard. So so you don't want that. You don't want to put like symbols and whatever, something like only you can understand. Don't use like I sometime, one day I saw a table like this. I said, okay, the table was invoice item. That was the name of the table, right? And then you had here you have IDP, and then you have first name, you have last name, and you have amounts, and you all was like this. Everything was like this, address, and city, and city, and country, like this. So everything was abbreviations, right? And sometime they use things crazy like this, like I don't know, project will be PGT, and this will be account like this, and then we have all will be ENVE come like, okay, everything will be like this. I'm doing like this, okay, and then it's so complex that you have something like this, And the guy said, okay, AC égale account. He put a legend, and the ENV equal invoices. So can you imagine? I know you saw that, and I know some of you are doing this. Okay, so this is abomination, because we don't need that anymore. That's what I want to demonstrate. We don't need that anymore. Why? Because now we have this. Now we have this. We have we have the typing like this. At the time of FileMaker 11, I will understand that. I will understand why the advantage, but now we don't. We absolutely at the contrary, that is killing you, because you cannot use the beauty of this, right? You understand? So that being said, we can land the boat.
Yep, we are good. Thank you very much, Nick.
Okay, so tomorrow, same time, same hours?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Same place.
Same time, same place. Thank you, Nick.
Yes. Thank you.
Lovely day. Bye, everyone.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!